welcome to Thrive's presentation on active transportation. I'm Tim O'Callahan. I'm a family doctor and Thrive board member, and I'm really privileged to be your moderator this evening. Active transportation is defined as getting from one point to another using your own power. And obviously there's lots of modalities that can come into play with that broad definition. What we're specifically going to be talking tonight about is cycling. As a family doctor, having worked in Amherstburg now for over 25 years, I frequently sit down with patients that have chronic diseases that would benefit from them increasing their physical activity. And that's hard for people to do sometimes with busy lifestyles. The question is, how do you integrate this? Wouldn't it be great for people to be able to incorporate trips on bicycles into their daily routine? Envision a community where residents can choose to use a bicycle for many of the trips that they take. Using a bicycle would have the advantage of improving the person's health, but also slowing down the interaction with the environment that they're in. Really noticing what's around us and interacting with other people on the road, I think, is something that I know cycling does for me, and I think people could benefit from. And not using a motor vehicle in these situations creates safer situations on the road for other road users. It has less impact on traffic, less impact on parking, and obviously less impact on the climate. So there's a lot of reasons, I think, why moving towards this would be a good idea. Amherstburg is an awesome place for cycling. It's flat. We live in a temperate environment. And there's lots of destinations to get to in Amherstburg. There's some great parks, shops, cafes, restaurants, schools, workplaces. So there's lots of opportunity, I think, for people to start incorporating trips into their daily routine. And the question is, what's holding people back? And I think that's the focus today. What are the benefits to active transportation through cycling? And what are the barriers that we can overcome? We've got two speakers tonight, and I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Laurie Newton. Laurie is the executive director of the Bike Kitchen and Bike Windsor, Essex, which has since 2011 represented bike lovers throughout Windsor and Essex County, and helps to make our region a safer and more bike-friendly place. I'm going to bring Laurie to the stage now, and following her talk, we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Tim, and hello, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, and I will see whether I can't share my screen with everyone. You see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me? No.
Excellent. Yeah.
Am I on mute?
Nope, we can hear you fine.
No, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, as Tim has already said, today I'd like to talk to you about how the humble bicycle can play a role in creating healthy, vibrant communities for people. We no longer have to look, I don't believe, to Amsterdam or Copenhagen to find models of active, equitable cities that are benefiting from supporting and investing in active transportation. We now know that when you create a place where people want to live, where life takes place outside on the streets, business and economic success will follow. By now, I think the benefits of cycling have become very well known to all of us. Bicycles, as Tim already pointed out, it improves your health. Bicycles ease traffic congestion and helps calm traffic, making our streets safer for all users. They save people money and provide them with more discretionary dollars for other things like supporting local cafes, restaurants, and small businesses. A bicycle takes up little space and provides efficient transportation with zero fuel consumption and zero carbon emissions. And of course, it's fun to ride a bike. From an economic perspective, bicycle tours have been booming in our region for several years as people come to explore our wineries, our breweries, our distilleries, beaches, historic and cultural sites, all on two wheels. I know most of you have heard and maybe even participated in the Detroit Slow Roll, where thousands of people experience Detroit from the saddle of a bicycle every Monday night on a slow bike ride. Prior to COVID restrictions, Windsor's fledgling Friday Night Lights was attracting hundreds of riders who enjoyed stops at pubs and restaurants to the benefit of local businesses. As we all crawl slowly out of COVID, I think we can expect to see this type of ride returned as demand grows. However, it's really important to note that route planning is critical for these rides. And when streets aren't bike friendly, the rides can't go there. While spending on cycling facilities remains slow in some local municipalities, the data is clear. Home values in Essex County communities that have been investing in building trails see significantly higher home values than similar homes in communities that don't have trails. And homes that back onto trails see values even higher. Young people, as most of us know, are increasingly questioning the need for car ownership and its related expenses. And they're looking to settle in urban towns where getting around by walking, biking, and even public transit is convenient. So Amsterdam and Copenhagen may have led the way, but diverse cities across the world are embracing cycling and providing exciting examples of how rapidly the shift to active transportation can transform spaces and solve many of the problems that are plaguing cities today. Traffic congestion, poor air quality, social isolation, inequity, and poor health. The city of Paris, that would be France, not Ontario, announced this week that much of the 1st to the 4th arrondissement will be going car-free. That's remarkable. Canadian cities too are reshaping their streets to support cycling. While this includes temperate Vancouver and Victoria, cold climate cities like Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, Halifax, Toronto, Waterloo, Hamilton, the list is long, are also embracing active transportation. I took a road trip this last fall to Halifax, where mode share for cycling in the south end of the city is more than 7%. The city embraces cycling and walking in countless creative ways, including this wonderful bike rental spot and cafe that's on its very remarkable waterfront. Closer to home, though, Kingsville is seeing the benefits of encouraging active transportation. Last year, the Grove started offering a bike rental service to support their brewery and hotel, and they rented 642 e-bikes and 158 cruiser bikes. Pretty impressive numbers for their first year and in the middle of a pandemic. The pandemic has accelerated a bit of a bike boom, bringing people of all ages out on their bikes for recreation and for commuting. A group of my friends and I enjoyed Amherstburg's wonderful weekend open streets events and all of the outdoor cafes that sprang up as restaurants and cafes have done what they could to keep their businesses afloat. Is there any doubt among any of us that we all want the pilot patios to become permanent? Sometimes these patios require the removal of some on-street parking, but the bustling cafes and vibrant street life have shown us that providing parking for cars is secondary to creating a welcoming and lively environment for all ages. The Cypher System Trail is a beautiful facility that leads people from across the county to your doorstep. You don't see our bicycles in this photo, but this is just one of several trips we made with friends to ride the trail from Windsor last summer, with a promise of wonderful, much-deserved refreshments once we got downtown. Whether riders come via the trail or the quiet county back roads, the town's delightful cafe culture is a magnet for riders who enjoy the ambiance and the great coffee and pastries that are available here. My slides just stopped. Unfortunately, the trail isn't yet connected to the downtown. So you can see at the top of this map where you come off of the Cypher Systems Trail. There's no wayfinding signage. There's no connected safe infrastructure, and it leaves riders on their own to figure out the best route forward. You can also see from this map that the arena and community center are located far away from where people live, creating a big problem for those who don't drive a car or who would prefer to walk or ride there. In fact, while there's much to boast of here, the town has a fair bit of work to do to encourage residents to adopt active lifestyles. The town's walkability score is 6, and that's out of 100. And that means that a car is required to live here. I think many of us think about Amherstburg in this way. It's charming, right? But is this the reality for most Amherstburg residents? Who doesn't enjoy walking and cycling through the beautiful downtown? We love it because we're strolling with friends, relaxing, saying hello to neighbors without worrying about finding a parking spot or traffic-related anxiety. But the reality is that almost all residents are driving their cars both to the downtown and to and from work, to shopping, to appointments, to their kids' sports and after-school activities. Residents living outside of the downtown are experiencing the town differently. What would you like your town to look like? With some bold decisions at town hall and grassroots calls for a better, healthier place to live, something resembling the top photo here is not that difficult to achieve. Has the car really provided the freedom it once promised, or has it taken away our freedom to enjoy our communities without fear? A great way to rethink our perceptions about where we live is to leave your car at home one day and to get on your bike and go for a ride. Explore your neighborhood, your town, by bike. Maybe bring your partner, a friend, your kids. I'm pretty sure your perceptions about your town will change after a few hours of riding. When we're driving, we typically have one pressing thought in mind. What's the fastest route between where I am and where I'm going? The landscape or cityscape we drive through becomes little more than a passing blur. But when you experience a place by bicycle, your experience is more intimate. You see, feel, touch, and smell your environment. We have problems in our cities. And when we're driving a car, we don't see those problems. We don't think about those problems. We don't experience those problems other than impatience with lights that turn red on us, too many stop signs, or annoying bad drivers who slow us down. But when you're on a bicycle, we do see those problems: abandoned, uncared for properties, excessive noise of a city filled with people idling and driving cars, excessive exhaust fumes, danger from impatient drivers going too fast, who speed up at amber lights so they can make the light, or inattentive drivers who ignore stop signs, who aren't watching out for pedestrians or cyclists. When you ride a bicycle through your community, you begin to understand that livability isn't just an abstract concept, it's an experience. You see how dramatically cars dominate our communities and prevent us from feeling safe. You recognize that human scale, connectivity, land use efficiency, urban fabric, complete streets, all that jargon that we hear from urbanists actually means something. So again, I'm asking you to really imagine what your town could look like. Remember when cars were cute? I think there's one of these in Amherstburg. But cars are not cute anymore. The most popular vehicle by far in Canada today is the pickup truck. A vehicle once scoffed at as a farmer's work vehicle has become the vehicle of choice, a status symbol in modern suburban Canada, and a very real danger to those walking and cycling, as you can see in this photo. The driver of this truck cannot see the child standing right in front of him. Some of these new mega trucks boast cameras inside the cab to enable drivers to see what's in front of them via a camera, because they literally can't see anything in front of their vehicles with their eyes. This is a serious problem for the safety of everyone else on the road, including people who are driving small vehicles. Share the road is a nice, cozy concept in theory, but why do we continue to believe it's a good idea, a fair proposition, for a vulnerable cyclist on a 20-pound bicycle to share the road with a 3-ton pickup truck? A plastic helmet and bright clothing cannot begin to protect a cyclist from vehicles being driven too fast by distracted, stressed out drivers. Pedestrian deaths are at a 30-year high, and when we continue to prioritize drivers when we design streets that move them through our communities as quickly as possible, we're complicit in these avoidable deaths. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have solutions. We know how to create safer streets, lowered speed limits, bike lanes, sidewalks, pedestrian crossing lights, narrower streets, speed humps, and separate pedestrian and cycling facilities away from vehicular traffic. And you, the grassroots community, must be the voice urging your counselors to make those tough long-term decisions. Our children deserve safe spaces to ride their bikes, to play with their friends, and to learn to navigate their small world before they get to the bigger one. Without trails, shared paths, separated bike lanes for them to get to school, to the soccer and sports fields, to swimming lessons, their parents must drive them. Teenagers need safe ways to cycle to their first job, maybe Tim Hortons, the local supermarket, or the hardware store. We need to think about how they will get there and ensure that they won't be competing for space with speeding car traffic and giant trucks. Otherwise, the parents will continue to drive them in so many gas-guzzling SUVs and pickup trucks. I'm currently working with the school boards on strategies to encourage children to walk and bike to school again. We know that walking and wheeling to school develops independence, sociability, and better prepares children for learning. But this is what we're up against. It's no wonder parents are afraid. Is a white stripe painted on the road and a 3-foot bike lane safe enough for this child, or a senior, a person with a disability, anyone at all on streets with vehicular traffic? We must do better. The revised Ministry of Transportation's guidelines for bike lanes, the guidelines your municipal planners and engineers must adhere to, now requires a minimum width of 1.5 meters and preferably 1.8 meters. What else can we do? Bollards, also known as flex posts, provide a visible reminder to car drivers to watch out for cyclists while making cyclists feel safer in their own clearly defined space. Even better, where feasible, say yes to protected or separated bike lanes. This is Bloor Street in Toronto, and you can see the separation in the bottom left, though it's replaced in the next block with a slightly raised concrete barrier and protection by parked cars. When a shared extended sidewalk is the best way to provide safe space for pedestrians and cyclists, add paint, markings, and signage, as they've done here, to indicate where everyone belongs. This is the gasp moment. This is such a beautiful treatment. When a shared pathway is determined to be the best solution for installing facilities on a road, different colored paint can delineate where cyclists and pedestrians belong. A rolled curb down to street level provides an escape for a bike rider avoiding a pedestrian, cracked pavement, or debris without falling off the curb into traffic. This is a possible solution for your Highway 20. This is a beautiful adapted street with sidewalks, a bike lane, a safe space for everyone to enjoy navigating their town. Clear pavement markings show everyone where they belong. Rolled curbs provide seamless transitions, and the highly noticeable green paint and zebra markings alert drivers coming into the intersection to watch for other road users. And do not let anyone tell you that cut curbs on a shared path protect pedestrians and cyclists. They don't. End stop. This is all not to suggest that pedestrians and people riding bikes don't share in some responsibility for their safety and well-being. However, there are a few things that make this challenging. First, we assume all cyclists know and understand the MTO rules of the road. However, we do not provide bike safety lessons in classes to children, to youth, to adults, to newcomers. So if they haven't taken driver's ed, how would they know the rules of the road? We teach children to swim, and I think that's fantastic, but we don't teach them to ride a bike safely. Further, we expect a person riding a bicycle to act exactly the same as a 2-ton car, which is not always practical. The car will always win. When people riding bikes feel unsafe on the road, they will often take to the sidewalk where they feel safer, and no one has ever told them that it isn't safer. Sidewalk cycling is illegal for good reason. Not only do cyclists there endanger pedestrians, but the majority of collisions between bicycles and cars are in intersections where sidewalks, driveways, and alleys meet the road. Drivers aren't looking for them, and the inevitable collisions occur. Again, the driver wins. The sidewalk is only appropriate for a young child who is learning to ride, and usually accompanied by a parent or guardian. Then there's stop signs. You know the complaint. Darn scofflaw cyclists blowing through stop signs. Said as though this holds the same weight as a person blowing through a stop sign while driving their car. Recent studies have confirmed that whether humans are riding bicycles, walking, or driving a car, they break traffic laws equally. And cyclists will choose to break laws because they feel unsafe. What we must never ignore is that the consequences of a driver of a 2-ton vehicle blowing a stop has dire consequences. Should all cyclists stop and put their foot down, losing momentum, if they can see clearly that there are no vehicles in or near the intersection? There's a lot of support for the Idaho stop, which allows a cyclist to use the stop as a yield. If you're driving your car behind a pack of 20 bike riders, do you really want each one of them to proceed to the stop and put their foot down before moving through the intersection? It's much more efficient for them to proceed as a group and thin out afterwards. And what about traffic lights? It depends on the type of intersection, but a cyclist coming up to a low volume traffic light will not trigger the light to engage. It will cycle through while the rider waits, forced to choose to either cross on the red or walk their bike over to trigger the pedestrian beg button. Someone on a trike or mobility device would have fewer choices. There is much we can do to encourage buy-in and understanding of the need for safe cycling infrastructure. Education and encouragement are critically important. Bike Windsor Essex provides bike valets across the region, so event attendees know that when they arrive, there will be a secure place to park their bikes. There are usually huge parking issues and congestion problems when communities host large events. Providing accessible and convenient parking is vital to encourage people to choose to ride rather than to drive. Just like people driving cars, cyclists need secure parking at their destination. In general, bike corrals that will allow 6 to 8 bikes to be parked should be available and very visible near shops, restaurants, and not hidden away in a far off spot where a thief has lots of time and access. Cyclists like to keep their bikes close by where they can keep an eye on them. We've run very popular escorted community slow rides in Windsor for years. And when I say we, I mean Bike Windsor Essex. And last year we added Kingsville to our schedule. Seniors especially, although not exclusively, enjoy these 1-to-1.5 hour rides where we visit markets, cafes, and other spots of interest. Here, we're visiting a bakery and riders are loading up their bikes with sweet treats. Cyclists love to eat and drink after burning off all those calories. And great news, we're working on adding a handful of rides in Amherstburg this year. These escorted rides are a terrific way for us to teach by example. How do you plan a route? How do you cycle on the road with traffic? How do you navigate an intersection and avoid crashes? How do you properly pump air in your tires? How do you ensure that your bike is actually a good fit for you? How to keep it in good, safe working condition? They also provide opportunities to chat with people about how better infrastructure for people walking and cycling can improve their community. Take a look around your community and see if you have a rider or riders who will host slow rides. Even a couple a month will bring residents and visitors out to explore your town. In the end, it's up to you, the residents, to help your politicians and planners make good decisions for everyone. This can be difficult and solutions vary, but when we say yes to mobility lanes, we're providing equity and accessibility to all of our residents. We live in a region where there can be 2, 3, even 4 cars in one household. For many, youth turning 16 expect to get a car, but this is changing even here, as it must change in order for us to meet our climate change targets. Active transportation plays a huge role in creating places where people want to live. Don't underestimate the impact of battery assist bicycles and cargo bikes. People can go further for longer, explore deeper. They can haul cargo, kids, their pets, whatever. And battery assist bikes eliminate hills and wind, so people are able to ride longer into the season and into their lives. There are now more e-bikes in Amsterdam than old-fashioned analog bikes. The Gordie Howe Bridge will be opening in just a couple of years with a dedicated bike hike lane, opening up new and exciting opportunities for cycle tourism. While you support your residents with safe routes for cycling now, you're also making sure you're ready to welcome those visitors. And if you haven't ridden in some time, dust off that old bike, get it in good working condition, and go out and explore your town. Ooh. The end, clearly, it's the end. There we go. Explore your town, explore your countryside. And with that, I'd love to hear your questions, your concerns, and best practices. Thank you.
So we have a small enough group that if there are questions, quite happy to take those verbally. Perhaps if you know how to raise your hand, that's great. If you don't, you can go ahead and come off mute and ask your question. If there's anyone not comfortable with posing the question verbally, you can use the chat for that.
Okay.
Dave.
Hi. So I just wanted to, there was one particular image there that caused me some grief. It was the paint on concrete or paint on the road surface to denote where a cyclist path is. Those are great and everything, but far too often I found them when they're wet or even have a little bit of, if it's cold outside and there's a bit of maybe snow out or something, they are insanely slippery. I know that there's formulations, it can put grit in it and stuff, but that's, you never know if you're going to survive riding over those until you've actually ridden over it and not fallen. So I just, I love them, but if we can make sure that when the ministry is putting down the those painted sections in your area, that you ensure that they've put grit in the paint to make it safe for cyclists and even pedestrians.
Lori, can you speak to that? Are there options in terms of the paint that's used to make it a safe transit? I've done the same thing even recently, gone around a corner and hit a little patch of white paint and slipped a bit.
I don't know. I've driven around the world. I've driven on painted bike lanes everywhere, and I happen to have not experienced that, but it would be a very important issue for the town's engineers to adhere to, and possibly Jerry will have something more to say about that.
There's many different types of green surfacing you can apply. There's paint, there's sheets that you can apply, which are very easy. And there's also anti-skid material with paint. And it just depends what you go for. So there are a few different options, and we definitely can look into putting down more anti-skid.
Thanks, Jerry. I think Keith has his hand up. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, Lori, how do we approach our municipality here in Amherstburg? Do we have to get a petition signed by a group of bikers? Like, how do you get the things in motion to get either chevrons to identify bike lanes? Or I like the Ballard idea. I know in London, Ontario, on Wellington Street downtown in London, they have ballards that delineate between the road and the bike lane, and that seems to work extremely well. But obviously, with all these types of things comes a cost. So is it a petition that drives it, or how do we go about doing that?
That's a great question. And I think that through the work that I've done to advocate for cycling infrastructure across the region, the best successes that I see are becoming as an individual or as a group, becoming very knowledgeable. That and developing relationships with either city administration or city councilors with whom you can sit and have a coffee and say, hey, I might have concerns about this. What does this look like? Can you find out more? Reaching out to us, you can always do that. I mean, we have a wealth of expertise after all the years that we've been working on projects, again, around the county. I'm not convinced that petitions, I mean, we did a petition once, the infamous Windsor zigzag. I don't think anybody's forgotten about that. And actually, for some of those events, we brought in the media too. So having relationships with the media who will report fairly on issues that matter to your community is also really important. But like so many things in our lives, relationship building and knowledge are the two keys to having success.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I guess I'm just going to interject there that Thrive is putting together a working group to work on a white paper that will be presented to town council later this year, I believe in May. And so I think, Keith, you're part of that group. I know we haven't had our first meeting yet, but that's imminent. And that's
Okay.
exactly the approach that we want to take. So engaging the town, engaging the town council, but also, bringing to this best practices. Lori will be sitting on that group and helping us navigate through, the strategy that we're going to take for the approach that our white paper is going to take. So I think there's lots of things we could push for. And I guess the question is, what's the thing we're going to push for this year to make active transportation better in our town?
Yeah, you also want to keep an eye on council agendas and what projects municipalities are already engaging in or that are upcoming. For example, if you know that there's going to be a big paving project on Simcoe Street, it's time to really ramp it up and to start having those discussions before everything's laid out and laid down and there's no more changing it. So those are very important to manage. It's not always fun monitoring council and the agendas and the projects, and it's not always easy, but very important.
Thank you. Harry. And I'm not sure. I can't see you, Harry. So I'm not sure if you're speaking. I see that your hand's up, but you are on mute. Not hearing anything from Harry. I'll let you sort your tech out there, Harry. I think there have been some comments in the chat. There was a question about whether the presentation, the slides will be available later. The Thrive website will house the completed presentation, and you'll be able to get that off the website. And Darren Winger says that quick wins or even creating a pilot project, many of which become successful or become permanent. So good point. Jeff Owen has his hand up. Jeff.
Hi, I just unmuted myself. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
First of all, Lori, thank you very much for taking the time to get involved with our community and this very important initiative. Appreciate that. I do think that Amherstburg has become, at least in the last few years, quite a destination for cyclists. I know a number of groups in the Windsor and Essex County area use Amherstburg as a destination point. I would like to ask if, and it's not a town council thing, but I noticed the one thing that's missing in Amherstburg in terms of how the town can use itself is there's really no place to put your bike. If you want to get into the sort of the downtown core of Amherstburg, I'm not sure yet, and maybe others in the town will answer this question for me because I only go to like 2 or 3 places on my bike in town, but there's really no place to lock it to or put it away to visit the town, if you will. Amherstburg is quite small to walk around, but there needs to be either a central hub or a place where bikes can be put. Has that been considered, Lori, or have you figured out a way in Windsor, for example, how to get the city to put, I don't know, bike stalls, or I don't know what they'd be called, but I think that will be an important piece. As we all know, bikes are stolen at a fairly alarming rate throughout our county and community, and also bikes are no longer inexpensive items to leave just leaning against a fence. So any comment on that, Lori?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. Thank you for that. Parking is critically important. This town has put in some very nice bike parking, but they're sort of at the edges and like by the park. So you're right. When you go into the town or you want to go to the cafe or restaurant, you're looking for something a little bit closer and something that maybe you can keep an eye on. Some of the municipalities have started to get bike lockers, and I have to get this out there. Bike lockers are extremely expensive. They're a bit of a hassle to go get the key and sign in and pay if there's a pay fee. And they only take a couple of bikes. So if you're going into, say, the Libro Center for 45-minute swimming lesson with your kid, you're not really interested in going to all that trouble of putting your bike in a locker. And we do, as you pointed out, have insufficient bike parking across the region, the city of Windsor as well. The city of Windsor has bike lockers, and they are so small, they will not even take my small women's bike. I've tested them. I'm not sure what's intended there. But I would love to see more bike corrals and the Sheffield U's that will allow a bicycle, even with a basket on it, to be pulled in and locked to the frame of the bike and not just the wheel or the tire of the bike. So yeah, just like people driving cars want more parking, people riding bikes also want more parking. And whether your bike is expensive or whether it's not, if it's your only transportation, the theft of that bicycle has impacted you severely. Yeah.
I'll just follow up briefly on that. The sort of automated bike storage unit, there are 2 of them in Amherstburg presently, I think just across from the River Bookshop. I haven't tried them out yet, but they exist. There's a couple of notes in the chat. So Justin LaFontaine says, hello from Kingsville. Great presentation and discussion. My suggestion to our friends in Amherstburg is to organize, get as many residents to sign a letter of support, share with councillors and the mayor. This is especially important in the lead up to the municipal election. Go Amherstburg. Darren Wingers says, take one parking stall and create a bike corral that can fit 8 bikes in one parking spot. So that's an interesting idea. And then Harry says, Tecumseh has an area where they used flexible bollards, but they stuck them in the bike lane. Quite hazardous. Yeah. Terrific. Any other questions before we move on to Jerry's presentation on CWATS? I guess I'm just going to generally ask, if a community was going to do one thing moving forward, what would the one thing be that could impact on the most residents?
That is the toughest question. I think I would have to say education. Get in the schools, which is we're doing. We're at Amherstburg Public in 2019 for our pilot. And we were in that school for a week teaching kids from grade 4 to grade 8 how to ride a bike, how to do hand signals, how to get through an intersection, how to maneuver your bike to avoid a crash, how to do an ABC quick check on your bike, how to fit your helmet. That is how we all started wearing seatbelts, I think, is when our kids say, oh, wear a seatbelt. I think similarly, we need this to happen with our kids. And I would just love to see a program across the region whereby all grade 4s or all grade 5s will receive full on, not a 1 hour presentation, but really on bike education for a week at their school. That would make a huge difference. Then those children will be telling mom and dad, I want to ride my bike to school, mom. I don't want you to drive me to school. When we did this program at Suzuki School in Windsor, the principal called me on day 2 and said, Lori, this is unbelievable. I need to go buy 2 more bike racks for my kids. They are all riding their bikes to school. That's a win. Right? Thanks.
That's awesome. Thank you. So just before bringing Jerry to the stage, I'm going to just reiterate that we are putting together a working group that will be writing the white paper and presenting that to municipal council. Many of the people in that working group are on the call this evening, and I'll just sort of highlight those names right now. So Dr. Andrew Cormier, Felicia Cristofaro, Robert Dennison, Lino Montemurri, Lori Newton, Martin O'Gorman, Keith Rivard, Glenn Susi, and Dane Weaver are all members of that group. And I see many of them here this evening. So appreciate your involvement in that group. We will be in touch shortly in regard to our first meeting. Without further ado, I'd like to now shift the focus to a discussion about the CountyWide Active Transportation System, or CWATS, which is a system that connects all 7 municipalities within Essex County. It's the main method by which county and municipalities champion safe and active transportation, create connections between communities, and encourage healthy living, and also contribute to economic development and tourism. Our speaker is Jerry Bell, who is the manager of transportation and planning and development. He is a professional engineer by trade and has worked in road design and planning for over the last 30 years. Jerry.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really nice to be able to talk to you guys about active transportation and what the county is doing in partnership with all the municipalities and many others. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I hope you can, oh, maybe that's the wrong screen.
No, that's fine.
Are you seeing?
That looks right. CWATS overview presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, so CWATS overview. So what is CWATS? is the CountyWide Active Transportation System, providing for and trying to champion safe, active transportation, creating connected communities. We want the County of Essex and all the municipalities to be connected. We want people to use active transportation. We want to encourage economic development. And our role in this is to help to provide infrastructure. So in 2012, there was a master plan. So this master plan was a document championed by the county in partnership with the municipalities, and we worked on the policies, which gave us the broad direction of where we want to go. It also had a plan showing the network, how we would connect those communities with bike lanes, multi-use pathways and trails. And so the policies are great. Having a network plan and how we're going to build it is great, but you also need the programs such as education, which Laurie's passionate about, and we need that. Education and just encouragement, just events that encourage people to use cycling and get people excited. So in 2012, when we started this CWATS master plan, we worked with our partners and they all signed this pledge that they're going to work towards promoting active transportation. And there's a copy of this charter, which they call the couch potato pledge for some reason. So the types of facilities, there's a lot of facilities that we have. Sometimes we just have a signed route. This is the route you can use. We have bike lanes. We have cycle paths, which could be two-way or one-way, and there's some sort of separation. We have multi-use paths, which are for pedestrians and cyclists, trails. And then one of the things I'm going to talk about a little more later is paved shoulders, which are just where you used to have gravel. We put down asphalt. It makes it a little easier for people to walk, and it provides space for people to cycle. So how do we, I'm going to go back. So how do we implement these? There's various ways we do this, but it's all in partnership with the lower tier municipalities, such as Amherstburg, Lakeshore, Kingsville, all of them. There is a core program. So the municipalities say to us and the committee, this is some infrastructure we'd like to build. And so they put in an application. There's a cost sharing formula based on if it's on-road, off-road, sidewalk, trail, if it's in an urban area, if it's in a rural area. But they come to the committee and they say, this is what we'd like to build. And the committee votes. There's some design work done, and hopefully it's built. An annual application process. Yeah. The CWATS committee members. So this just highlights some of the committee members. And you see all the municipalities there, the health unit. Chatham-Kent's also involved, Urca, Windsor, and the Ministry of Transport. And then we have external partnerships such as Share the Road, Bike Windsor Essex, Tourism Windsor Essex, and yeah, there's a few more there. So it really is the municipalities, the county, and others working together, and these partnerships. trying to build active transportation corridors. I think I may have deleted a couple of slides by mistake. So let's go back. So this is the core network, which is the applications from the municipalities. There are also applications for the municipal partnership program. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit, because that's where we work with the municipalities to provide, let's call it non-linear infrastructure. We help them, and we provide signs, benches, bike lockers, bike repair stations, all that other stuff that you need to make cycling work. We have in the county around about $100,000 a year to spend on this, and we partner with the municipalities. The CWATS core infrastructure program that I was talking about, which is municipality led, we have about $1.5 million to share on that. And that's why we vote and we all agree on what's going to be built. And then there's another one called our paved shoulder program. So when the county has a road that's beginning to get a little lumpy and bumpy, and we need to resurface it for the cars, we look at opportunities to pave the shoulder. So that would provide space for cyclists, and we put that line down, and it provides a 2 meter, maybe 3 meter shoulder for cyclists. So those are some of the programs that we have. An overview of the county. So this just shows that at the moment, we've got a pretty low modal split, which is pretty common. But if you look at the amount of time it could take for people to commute within 15 minutes, we can do stuff. We can get people commuting. We just have to provide the infrastructure, the education, and we have to make them feel safe and comfortable. And 91% of the residents in surveys have said, yes, spend more on cycling. And we are seeing that as we are building the infrastructure, we are seeing more cycling, more walking, and you can see the changes and the increases. And as we provide more and better facilities, that will increase. So I talked about CWATS, which started in 2012. We are now having an update to that whole master plan. And why update now? We've learned more about cycling. There's now more guidance on the type of infrastructure that we should use. And so we need an update. What we're seeing is what we used to provide paved shoulders, maybe now we need to provide separated facilities. Equity is emerging. And so we need to provide facilities that everybody can use, that everybody can feel comfortable using. And finally, there's new trends in technology. And so there's this issue of micromobility where people might use a scooter or a powered electric bike, and they may put it on the bus. So we got to adapt, we got to change, we got to update. We are in the process of looking at our network and updating that for better connectivity. And what we are doing is we are working with the municipalities, and there's been some network meetings where we've looked at the networks and changed things. And we've got, at the moment, in the 2012 network was about nearly 800 kilometers. And we've built nearly 600 to date. The ultimate network that we're planning now is going to be over 1,000 kilometers. So we're working with the municipalities. And what have we done so far? We've had public open houses. We've looked at the network, and we've gone to all of the local municipalities over the last couple of months, and now we're refining our network, and we will be going back out to the public and incorporating the comments that we will get back from council, and then we will have a public information center on the draft plan, including the network, and then a full plan for approval. So that's it for me. I would like to thank Diana Radulescu, who is our active transportation coordinator, who's now on maternity leave, but absolutely brilliant, and we'll get her back. And she did these slides, and she's done this very similar presentation to all of the municipalities and council, and did a better job than me. So I think she might be here, but thanks to her. And I'm available if you have any questions.
That's terrific. So we'll get you to stop screen share. That's great. And the first question is Jeff Owen.
To unmute myself there. Thank you very much, Mr. Bell. I appreciate your time, taking your time to sit with us. One suggestion or recommendation is, and I am part of a group that does ride in the county fairly extensively. Certainly not the only one on this call, but one of them for sure. What I would ask is there needs to be some, I call it maintenance of the bike lanes. Typically the bike lanes are the recipient of all of the trash from the road, including the street sweepers that push, they do a great job. And by the way, it's not a criticism. I'd rather be on a gravelly bit of CWATS than not. But it appears that everything from lawn clippings to garbage cans to rocks and debris end up in the bike lane just by the very nature of where it is. Okay, like it's obviously the receptacle for that. It's quite often the curb to which all of that gets pushed. At some point, I think that when the roads are being cleaned, as an example, in the spring of sort of winter debris, we'll call it, it would be appreciated, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. It would be appreciated if the street sweepers would extend into the bike lane rather than have the bike lane as the repository for whatever they're pushing. I don't know how that would be done. I'm sure that from an engineer's perspective, there's all sorts of logistics as to why it couldn't be done. But Essex County has done a terrific job in the past, I don't know, I'll say decade for sure, of opening up like cross county ability to ride. And unfortunately, from time to time, some of those paths are almost unrideable. So it's more, I'm not complaining, but I guess I sound like I'm complaining, and I apologize for that. But it would, and I know guys like Tim and others are very seasoned cyclists and very good at that sort of thing. But when somebody's not a seasoned cyclist, it can be a bit daunting when you're avoiding garbage cans and lawn, lawn debris and all sorts of stuff. It makes it a little more uncomfortable of a ride for people that aren't experienced riders, and stops people perhaps from wandering outside their comfort zone. So anyway, that's just what I have to say. Is there any policy, or is there any request? Is it a county by county thing, or does I don't know.
So in the update, there is a maintenance chapter, and snow clearing and cleaning is in that. And we have sent the maintenance chapter, which is in draft form, out to all of the maintenance people, and we're hoping to have and we got some feedback, but not enough. So we're going back and having workshops with them, because we may need to purchase some slightly different equipment. Some smaller equipment just for sidewalks or bike lanes where they're separated. But it is important to us, and it's somewhere we want to improve. So that is written into our maintenance chapter with policies. So we are working on it, and it is noted.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess I'm just going to echo some of what was just said. So beyond maintenance, I think, parking a big load of gravel as a contractor in a bike lane is something I see all the time. And when the landscaping's done, or the dirt's moved or whatever, there's still a lot of it left over. Is there some mechanism to get the contractor who put it there to kind of clean it up afterwards? Are there rules around sort of paved shoulders? Like, I'm thinking of the one that was installed on Highway 20. That's awesome. As soon as it was installed, people started using it. But people also park there. And so you're cycling along possibly as a group, you've got a nice big lane, and then all of a sudden you're veering off into the traffic lane so that you don't hit the car that's parked there, and it creates a situation. So I guess I don't know where that responsibility lies. Is that the responsibility of the municipality to properly sign those areas as no parking, or are they no parking? I guess I'm not sure.
So often they're paved shoulders, and the purpose of the paved shoulders, if you need to pull over, break down, or you need to stop for some reason, it's there for safety. We just made it asphalt. So that doesn't mean you can park there. So in some instances, we have looked at where it's recurring. We've done the education piece, where we've put letters out saying, please don't park, it's there for this purpose. And the next step is putting up a few signs. So where we're hearing this, we're trying. Now, jurisdictional issues and who enforces this, can we ticket? It's challenging. And we don't want to get into the precedent where we have to put no parking signs down every county road, because the maintenance costs, and it'd just be huge. But where it's a problem, we can certainly look at it.
Thanks. I think the next question is coming from Harry. Harry, you want to come off mute? Again, I think, Harry, you were just off mute a second ago. There you go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I sure can, Harry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. A couple things. On Jeff's comment relative to bike maintenance or bike lane maintenance, the year pre-COVID, I brand new retiree, so I sort of had the time. I thought I would take some of that maintenance issue and just see where it went. So I went to the town hall and asked about sort of who sweeps the lanes and how does that work, and how do I make this happen, and all the rest of it. They're quite accommodating. There was no program for it, but she very quickly asked me which roads I was talking about. Turned out they're all county roads, pointed me to the county. And I actually, probably by the end of the day, I was speaking to the operator of the sweeper. He just wanted to know what roads, and he said, give me a week, I'll get it done. But so it sounds like the county maintenance folks are, at least on a one-off basis, very accommodating. I just was thinking if somehow we could get that put on a monthly maintenance schedule, they could take a spin down these, probably in our area at least, probably get it all done in one day, maybe even half a day. I guess there's really not that many roads that we ride on. Or, I mean, even if they did all the paved shoulders, I mean, it's half a day probably.
I agree. There, as I said, we have the updated plan, and in it we have this maintenance chapter, and we're working very hard to get the buy-in from all the people who do the maintenance. Because once we've got that buy-in from them and they've agreed that this is how often we're going to sweep, this is, and even the priorities, because we're going to sweep these ones first, then these ones, or snow clearing. You know, there's some that they're not going to snow clear, and there's some that they are. So we want to get that all worked through and agreed, and also make sure they've got the budget for it.
So I guess I got a subsequent question to that. If I were to do that again, this is year probably where it would appear, at least for today, that we may be nearing the end of COVID, but I guess we'll see. If I were to make that call again this spring, am I screwing up your system, or is that okay to do?
That's okay. So the master plan isn't finalized, and they do have a regimented sort of order of things of when they sweep. But if there's a problem and you ring up that same number for county,
sure,
yeah, something's happened, there's debris, they'll go out and do it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. A question from Martin.
Hi, just my question pertained to the same topic. I had two questions, actually. I guess the one's a good question about the county. Love what you guys did on County Road 20. I use it often, and it's the best part of my ride. It's smooth, it's wide, it's very safe. I guess the master plan, my question was, is that going to connect to Colchester in the near future, or is that something that we're going to have to wait and find out when we have the meetings, public hearings, or where is that going?
Oh, I'm not really prepared to talk about. I just haven't done the preparation to talk about the connectivity and the routes, because you will be seeing that, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be. Let me see. Oh. So you're talking about
Holiday Beach. It ends right now.
Okay. I think it's going to be better connected, but we're still working this through. So I don't. If I try to talk about it, I might get it wrong.
Okay. So my next question pertains to the exact same talk everybody had. I love that route. In the fall, when the farmers started harvesting, got into their muddy fields, you could not use you had to get on the road because it was so badly littered. Right. And I wondered, back to the topic we had, is there an awareness there that somebody realizes that has to be cleaned on a regular basis for something like that, is knowing that we are a farming community and those are things that we're sharing that lane with tractors.
So I think the way to do it is we will have a plan and a schedule to clean. But if something unexpected happens, give us a call.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Terrific. Well, seeing no more hands up, I'd like to thank our faculty, Lori and Jerry, for their excellent presentations this evening. They've been very insightful, and this is going to form the beginning of work that we're doing at Thrive in coming up with that white paper and a plan for our town. While I've got folks on the line, I'll remind you that of a few things. One of the things that we have planned for active transportation is a community cycling event, the date of which is to be determined, but probably will be in late April. And the idea is for us to get interested bicyclists out on some of good examples of good active transport infrastructure and not so good, so that we can foster some discussion about that. Thrive is also working on a couple of other white papers at this point, including phase 2 of climate change, and there's an arts and culture white paper as well. For those of you who have not signed up to be part of Thrive, there is no sign-up fee at this point, and we are looking for residents that are interested in making Amherstburg even better. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting. I really appreciate everyone for coming out tonight. Thanks very much. Good night.
Good night.